You ever hear laughter coming from a place that should be empty? I did, every night. They told me it was just the sound of the rides settling. But rides don't whisper your name, do they? You ever make a choice that feels wrong the second the ink hits the paper? Like your hand isn't yours anymore, just a puppet tied to something smiling behind the dark. That's what it felt like when I signed the carnival contract. I told myself it was just nerves, but deep down, I knew I'd just agreed to something I'd never walk away from. The carnival wasn't on any map. It wasn't even there the night before. One day it was just an empty lot off Route 19, cracked asphalt, weeds, silence, and then suddenly, it was there. Bright lights, music that didn't sound quite human. The air smelled like burnt sugar and old oil. The kind of place that looked fun from a distance. But if you stood too close, it felt like it was watching you back. I was broke. Lost my job, my apartment, and most of my pride in the same week. So when I saw that little handwritten flyer, help wanted, night shift, cash daily, I didn't care that it was stapled to a telephone pole with something that looked a lot like dried blood. I needed money, not answers. When I showed up, the gates were already open, though no one else was there. Just the hum of the lights. The slow creak of the Ferris wheel turning with no wind. A man was waiting at the ticket booth. Mr. Voss. That's what the name tag said, though I never saw him blink. His skin was pale like candle wax, his smile stretched too thin, and his voice smooth, calm, like he'd practiced being human. "You're right on time," he said, sliding a folder across the counter. "We open at sunset and close before dawn. No questions, no exceptions." I nodded, pretending I wasn't unnerved. "So what exactly do you need me to do?" His eyes flicked toward the dark tents behind him. "We all have our roles here. You'll find yours soon enough." He tapped the folder. "But first, you'll need to agree to the rules." The paper looked old, edges yellowed, corners frayed, and the text typed on a machine older than my parents'. There were only 3 rules written in faded ink. No mirrors after midnight. 2. Never feed the clowns. 3. Do not go near the carousel when it stops. I almost laughed. That's it? Sounds like a bad campfire story. Mr. Voss's expression didn't change, but his tone sharpened. They are not suggestions. The carnival runs on rules. Those who forget them. He let the sentence trail off, his grin widening just enough to show teeth too perfect to be real. Don't last very long." He slid a pen toward me, a sleek silver one, still warm to the touch. The paper trembled slightly as I picked it up. For a second, I thought the ink shimmered, like it was alive. "Go ahead," he whispered. "Welcome to the night shift." I told myself it was fine, just weird carnival theatrics. But the moment my signature hit the paper, I swear I heard something, soft laughter far away, echoing through the tents. Mr. Voss snatched the contract back, folded it neatly, and slipped it into his coat pocket. "Good," he said. "Your shift starts now." The lights around us flickered. The air grew colder, heavier. Somewhere behind the tents, a music box started to play a slow, crooked melody. The Ferris wheel's lights pulsed once, twice, then stopped completely. "Where is everyone?" I asked. "Oh, they'll be here soon." His eyes glinted. "The carnival wakes when the sun dies. You'll get used to it." He led me through the main walkway. The rides were still, the booths empty, but I could feel movement. Shadows swaying inside darkened stalls, whispers curling through the air like smoke. As we passed the carousel, I froze. One of the horses moved, just slightly. Its painted eye rolled toward me. I blinked, and it was still again. Mr. Voss didn't look back. "You'll be stationed by the game tents tonight," he said. "Clean up, restock prizes, greet customers if any come by. Keep your head down and your curiosity lower. What happens if—" He stopped. "Don't!" His voice changed, deeper, empty. I didn't ask again. When he left, I stood alone in that maze of lights and silence. The music had stopped, but I could still feel it, vibrating in my bones. I walked toward the ring toss stand. The prizes, stuffed animals, plastic rings, little trinkets, looked normal. But every time I turned my back, they seemed to shift slightly. The bear on the top shelf had its head turned a different way each time I looked up. The night stretched on. No customers came, though I kept hearing faint footsteps circling the tents. Once, I caught a glimpse of movement behind the carousel again. A figure, small, pale, darting between the horses. A kid, maybe, or something pretending to be. I thought about the rules. No mirrors after midnight. Never feed the clowns. Don't go near the carousel when it stops. They sounded ridiculous, until I realized the music had gone silent again. The carousel wasn't moving. The horses, frozen mid-gallop, seemed to be staring straight at me. The air felt thick, like the world was holding its breath. Then, faintly, a soft tapping, like hooves on metal. I told myself I imagined it. I told myself it was nothing. But deep down, something in me knew I'd already broken the third rule, just by looking too long. Somewhere behind me, a voice whispered, so quiet I almost thought it came from inside my head. "Welcome to the show." I didn't turn around, not yet, because something told me that if I did, I'd never leave this place again. And that's when I first heard the laughter. You ever hear a sound that doesn't belong to this world? Like something laughing through a throat that isn't built to laugh. That's what woke me on my second night at the carnival. It wasn't just a sound, it was an invitation. I'd slept behind the game booths, wrapped in an old tarp that smelled like metal and burnt sugar. The laughter came from the direction of the carousel. Low, gurgling, childlike, but wrong. The kind of wrong that makes your chest tighten and your hands sweat even when you tell yourself you're fine. The first night I'd convinced myself it was nerves or exhaustion, but tonight, the silence after the laughter felt alive, like something was waiting for me to move. I checked my watch, 3:12 a.m. Every ride was dead still except the carousel, which rocked gently even though there was no wind. Its lights pulsed faintly, not bright enough to see clearly, just enough to suggest movement, shadows gliding in slow circles. I remembered the rule. Do not go near the carousel when it stops. But it wasn't stopped. Not exactly. It was turning on its own, groaning softly, as if pushed by something too heavy to see. I tried to look away, but something caught my attention. A faint sob, a child's voice, small, fragile. It was coming from the carousel's center, near the organ pipes that hadn't played since I arrived. "Hello?" I called, instantly regretting it. The word felt swallowed by the dark. The crying stopped. Silence. Then a whisper right behind me, though I was standing in the open. "Don't!" I spun around. Marla stood a few feet away, her eyes reflecting the dim light. I hadn't even heard her approach. She looked older than the day before, paler, thinner, like the night itself was draining her. "What are you doing out here?" I asked. I could ask you the same thing. Her voice trembled, but not from fear. It sounded like anger held too long. "You heard the rules. You read them. I just thought I heard. Doesn't matter what you heard. You don't answer the carousel. Ever." Her words hit me harder than I expected. "Answer it." She glanced toward the ride. "It talks to people who still believe they can leave." I didn't understand then. I wish I didn't understand now. Before I could say anything, the music flickered to life. The same slow, wheezing tune that had haunted me since signing that damn contract. The lights brightened one bulb at a time, bathing the horses in a pale, sickly glow. The paint on them shimmered wet, like it hadn't fully dried. The carousel was moving again, slowly, empty, but I swear for a second I saw something on it. A figure riding one of the horses, head turned toward me, not facing forward, toward me. I blinked and it was gone. Marla grabbed my arm. "Come on." We hurried back toward the food stalls, her grip iron tight. "You shouldn't be here after hours," she whispered. "That's when they start looking." "Who's they?" I asked. "The carnival." "That doesn't make sense." "Neither does this place." Her tone cut through my denial. "You think this is some roadside attraction? You think people run this?" I opened my mouth, but the words died. She leaned closer. "You saw Mr. Voss, didn't you? The way he watches, the way he never leaves the grounds." I nodded slowly. "Then you've seen enough to know something's wrong." We reached a dim corridor behind the tents, lined with crates and dusty props. A faint buzzing came from a broken string of bulbs overhead. I tried to shake off the unease. "You're saying this place is haunted?" Marla gave a small, bitter laugh. "Haunted would be a blessing. Ghosts still remember being human." She handed me a folded note. Paper yellowed and damp. "Keep this. What is it?" "Something that might keep you from being noticed. Read it when you're alone." Before I could ask more, she disappeared into the maze of tents. I swear I didn't hear footsteps. She was just gone. I unfolded the paper. The ink was smudged, but I could make out a single sentence. "The rides don't sleep. Don't let them see you stop." That's when I heard the music again. Closer now. The carousel song, but twisted, reversed. It was echoing through the pipes of the entire carnival. I turned toward the sound. The carousel lights had gone out again. Only one remained lit. A single bulb swinging gently, casting long, distorted shadows. Then came the crying again. Louder. Desperate. "Help me. Please!" Every instinct screamed, "Stay back." But my legs didn't listen. I stepped closer until the scent hit me. Sweet. Rotten. Like burnt sugar mixed with blood. The horses seemed to breathe. Their chests rose and fell under layers of paint. One of them, white with golden eyes, had something dark dripping from its mouth. "Please." The voice was right beside me now, even though the platform was empty. I took one more step, and the music stopped mid-note. The silence was so sharp it hurt. Then the carousel jerked forward, spinning fast, too fast. The lights burst, one by one. I stumbled back as the ride groaned, like something alive was clawing its way out from beneath it. A hand, small, pale and slick, reached from between the horses, gripping the platform edge. Another followed, and then I saw the face. It wasn't a child. It was something that used to be one eyes too wide, mouth sewn at the corners, skin stretched thin as wax paper. It stared at me as the ride began to slow again, creaking, moaning, whispering my name in a dozen voices. I ran. I didn't look back. But even from the other side of the carnival, I could still hear that carousel turning, grinding, whispering, like it was calling me back. And in the distance, just before dawn, I heard Marla's voice. Flat, cold, final. "You broke the third rule. You ever look into a mirror and see something that shouldn't be there? Something just a breath out of sync with you? That's what it's like working the night shift now. Every reflection feels wrong, like my face isn't quite mine anymore." After that night at the carousel, I stopped sleeping. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw the child thing's sewn mouth moving, trying to form words it couldn't say. Mr. Voss never mentioned what happened. In fact, he never mentioned anything. The next evening, he simply handed me a new assignment slip. Hall of Reflections. When I told him I'd rather work anywhere else, he smiled that same stretched smile. "Everyone faces themselves eventually," he said. "Consider it." A lesson in honesty. The mirror tent stood at the far end of the carnival, away from the laughter and the rides. The canvas was striped red and white, but up close, the colours bled into each other, like the fabric was still wet. The flap opened with a sigh, breathing out air that smelled faintly metallic, like rust and rain. Inside, the mirrors towered higher than I expected, lining every wall, curving into narrow corridors that twisted and bent back on themselves. At first glance, it looked like a funhouse, but there was no music, no lights, no sound, just reflections, dozens of them, all me except, not exactly me. In the first mirror, my face was fine. In the second, my eyes looked a little too dark. In the third, my mouth twitched upward, even though I wasn't smiling. I blinked, and the reflection didn't. "Just lighting," I whispered, forcing a laugh. My voice echoed back, distorted, like someone imitating me poorly. I moved deeper. The path grew tighter, mirrors pressing in close. My reflection multiplied endlessly. Hundreds of versions of me staring back, each slightly different. One had a bruise on his neck I didn't. Another's lips were moving soundlessly. A third was turned sideways, even though I was facing forward. The air grew heavy, warm. I heard soft tapping, like fingertips drumming on glass, but I wasn't touching anything. Then, faintly, I heard Marla's voice behind me. "You shouldn't be here." I spun around. She stood at the entrance, half hidden by the light outside. Her expression was tight, almost pleading. "I didn't choose this," I said. "Doesn't matter. He sent you here. That means it's already started." "What started?" "The replacement." Before I could ask what she meant, she stepped back. The flap fell closed, cutting off the outside light. The tent plunged into dimness, lit only by the cold glow of the mirrors themselves. I turned and froze. My reflections were moving again. Some smiled, some frowned. One reached up and pressed its hand against the glass. I didn't move. Neither did the others. Just that one. Its fingers splayed, matching mine. Almost. The angle was wrong, like the hand belonged to someone trying to remember how human movement worked. Then it spoke. Its mouth didn't open fully, just enough to let words slide out like smoke. "You shouldn't have looked." I stumbled back, tripping over something hard. A mirror shard lay on the floor, sharp as ice. My heartbeat thundered in my ears. "This isn't real," I said. "You're not real." The reflection tilted its head, the same way Mr. Voss had when I first met him. "Neither are you," the glass rippled. For a second, I saw something behind my reflection. Dark figures, long arms, shapes that didn't belong in any geometry I knew. Then, just as quickly, it was gone. I grabbed the cleaning rag I'd brought and hurled it at the mirror. The glass cracked, spiderwebbing outward. The sound that came from it wasn't shattering, it was screaming. I stumbled toward the exit, but the corridor seemed longer than before. Every turn led to more mirrors, more versions of myself. Some whispered, some cried. One banged its fists against the glass until blood smeared across its knuckles. When I finally found the exit flap, it wouldn't move. The canvas felt like stone. Behind me, footsteps echoed, my own, but delayed. "Stop!" I hissed. The steps stopped. Good. I turned back to the flap. Then they started again, running. I whirled around. Every reflection lunged forward at once, palms slamming against the glass. The sound was deafening. I screamed and kicked at the nearest mirror. It shattered, sending shards spinning across the dirt floor. The tent fell silent. I froze, waiting. Then, softly, a single shard near my shoe shimmered. My reflection stared back from it, but it was smiling. I left the tent. I don't even remember running. I just remember The air outside felt colder than it should, like I'd stepped into a world slightly off from the one I'd known before. When I reached the staff trailer, I found Mr. Voss waiting on the steps. His expression was calm, almost amused. "You've seen your reflection, then?" I didn't answer. He leaned forward. "That's good. It means it's taking hold." "What is?" "The carnival," he said simply. "It shows us what we are and what we owe." I wanted to leave, to run until the lights were just a memory, but my body felt heavy, like gravity had doubled around me. Mr. Voss stood, brushing invisible dust from his sleeve. "You'll work the feeding tomorrow night," he said. "Try to get some rest." He turned to go, then paused. "And a word of advice, don't break any more mirrors. They don't like that." He walked away before I could ask who they were. When I went to bed, I found glass shards beneath my pillow, perfectly arranged in a circle. My reflection in each one smiled even while I cried. That's when I realized Marla was right. The carnival doesn't haunt you. It replaces you. You ever smell something so foul it clings to your soul? Like rot wrapped in sweetness. The kind of scent that makes your stomach turn but your feet keep walking closer anyway. That's what the clown tent smelled like the night of the feeding. I didn't know it was called that yet. Mr. Voss just told me, "Report to Marla after sundown. She'll handle your orientation." His smile was thinner than usual that evening, almost stretched. I could still see my reflection in his eyes, but it blinked half a second too late. The carnival was louder than usual. Every ride screamed and groaned like they were alive and in pain. The crowd, if that's what they were, moved strangely too. Faces painted white, eyes unfocused, laughter looping like a broken record. No one spoke words, just giggles and whispers stitched together into a rhythm. Marla found me behind the food stalls, pale under the flickering bulbs. She didn't greet me, just shoved a heavy bucket into my hands. The smell hit first, raw meat, wet, fresh. "What's this for?" I asked, already knowing I didn't want the answer. Her eyes darted to the clown tent. "You'll see soon, just don't make noise." Inside the air was thick. Curtains sagged from the ceiling, stained and dark. The laughter that came from deeper inside didn't sound human. It was too sharp. Too broken. Marla walked first. Her steps were careful, deliberate, like she was moving through sacred ground. The deeper we went, the quieter everything got, until the only sound was the wet drip of the bucket swinging at my side. Then I saw them, the clowns. They were sitting in a circle around the center pole, heads tilted forward, motionless. Their paint was cracked, their mouths smeared with red. Not lipstick red, real red. Their costumes sagged against their bodies as if the fabric had grown heavier with time or hunger. "Put it down," Marla whispered. I knelt, placing the bucket in the middle of their circle. My hands shook. "Marla, what is this?" She hesitated. Then, so quietly I almost missed it, she said, "They're not clowns anymore." As if on cue, one of them twitched. Its painted head jerked upward, revealing a face that wasn't painted at all. It was stretched flesh, stitched into a smile. The eyes glowed faintly, milky and blind. Another leaned forward, then another. Their movements were slow, deliberate, almost reverent. They sniffed the air in unison, the way animals do when they sense something alive. The first clown plunged its hand into the bucket. The sound, wet, tearing, chewing, filled the silence. The others followed, hands sinking into the meat, devouring in slow, rhythmic bites. I tried not to look, but I couldn't turn away. "Why do we feed them?" I whispered. Marla's lips trembled. "Because if we don't, they remember." "Remember what?" Her eyes flicked toward me, filled with something that looked a lot like pity. "Us." I didn't understand. Not then. One of the clowns froze mid-bite, head snapping in my direction. The others stopped too. The sound of chewing ceased. The entire tent held its breath, its jaw unhinged with a sickening crack. Something wet hit the floor. Then another. I stepped back. Marla! Don't move! The clown crawled forward, limbs bending at wrong angles, dragging its bulk across the dirt. Its mouth widened further, the corners splitting until they reached its ears. From deep inside that gaping maw, I heard a whisper, familiar, almost human. Help me. It wasn't the clown's voice. It was mine. I stumbled backward, tripping over the bucket. The raw meat spilled out, but there was something else mixed in. Something that shouldn't have been there. Fingers. Human fingers. I scrambled up, but Marla grabbed my wrist. Don't run. They chase movement. Then what do? We wait until they're done. Her voice broke. We always wait. The clowns resumed eating, slow and methodical, as if the interruption had never happened. I stared at them in horror. The smell of blood filled my lungs, heavy and metallic. When it was over, Marla pulled me out of the tent. We didn't speak until we reached the edge of the fairground where the lights didn't reach. She finally turned to me. Now you know why the rules exist. I shook my head, trembling. You expect me to keep working after that? You don't have a choice. Then I'll quit. Her laugh was hollow. You signed the contract, remember? Employment ends when performance concludes. What performance? She stared at me for a long time. You really haven't figured it out? Before I could answer, a familiar voice echoed behind us. Smooth, calm, and cold. Everything here is a performance, said Mr. Voss. He stepped out from the shadows, his face catching the light. For the first time, I noticed he didn't cast one himself. The audience comes to watch, and we play our parts. My throat tightened. What audience? His smile widened, too wide. Oh, you'll see them soon. They always arrive for the finale. He reached into his coat pocket and pulled out a slip of paper. My contract. The ink shimmered like fresh blood. He turned it toward me. My signature pulsed faintly, like a heartbeat. You've done well tonight, he said. One more show and your role will be complete. Marla stepped between us. He's not ready. Mr. Voss's expression didn't change. None of you were. He tucked the paper away and walked off, humming the same broken carousel tune. When he disappeared, Marla finally whispered, Tomorrow is the last show. I didn't answer. Couldn't. The air around us felt heavier than before, thick with something unseen. That's when I noticed my hands, stained dark red. The smell of raw meat still clung to my skin, but when I tried to wipe it away, the blood didn't move. It was inside, seeping through my pores, becoming part of me. And for the first time, I understood what Marla meant when she said the carnival doesn't feed on food, it feeds on us. The carnival was silent that night. Not quiet, silent. The kind of silence that presses against your ears until your heartbeat becomes the loudest thing in the world. The ride stood still. The lights flickered in soft dying pulses, like the carnival itself was breathing its last. And somewhere beyond the tents, the carousel began to turn. It wasn't supposed to. The last show begins at midnight, Marla said. She stood beside me, her voice low, her eyes rimmed in black smudges. She hadn't slept, I could tell. Maybe none of us had. Once it starts, there's no leaving. I wanted to ask what that meant, what the last show even was, but I already knew the answer in my gut. Everything in this place had been leading here. The contract, the rules, the feeding. We were the performance. The crowd arrived without a sound. They didn't walk, they simply appeared, one by one, beyond the fog that rolled over the field. Their faces were pale, mouths stretched into painted grins, Every one of them wore carnival masks that gleamed in the dim light. Behind each mask, I could feel eyes, cold, ancient, watching. Mr. Voss stood in the center of the fairground, coat flowing like smoke, hands clasped behind his back. "Ladies and gentlemen," he announced, his voice echoing unnaturally, "tonight we present our grand finale, a story of faith, fear, and the price of disobedience." He turned his head toward me. "Our newest performer will take the lead." My heart stuttered. "No," I whispered, backing away. "I didn't agree to this." He smiled, sharp and patient. "You signed, didn't you?" The ground beneath my feet vibrated. Music rose from nowhere. A distorted calliope tune, shrill and broken, the same one the carousel had played the first night I arrived. The crowd clapped in rhythm, their hands hitting too hard, bones knocking like wood. "Go on," Marla whispered beside me. Her voice trembled. "If you don't play your part, they'll find another way to finish it." "What happens if I do?" Her lips parted, but no words came out. The lights blazed suddenly, flooding the midway in a sickly golden glow. The carousel whirred faster, horses jerking in spasms. And then every ride started up at once. Ferris wheel, tilt-a-whirl, the tent lights. Everything came alive, screaming in a chorus of rust and power. Voss lifted his hands. "Let the show begin." The first act began with laughter, not the human kind. It rolled through the tents like thunder, high-pitched, manic, endless. The clowns staggered from their tent, faces smeared and dripping, teeth glinting in the glow. They danced in jerks and twitches, surrounding the stage that had risen from the ground like it had always been there. Voss gestured toward me. "Step forward, performer." I didn't move. My legs refused. But something else inside me did. A pull, deep and familiar, yanked me forward like a puppet on strings. The crowd's masked faces leaned in as I stepped onto the stage. The boards beneath my feet were slick. When I looked down, I realized why. Blood. Dried into the wood. Layered. Voss's voice cut through the noise. "Recite the promise." My throat went dry. "What promise?" Marla's voice echoed faintly from somewhere behind me, broken and desperate. "The words you signed. The contract. The ink that pulsed like blood." And before I could stop myself, the words spilled out of my mouth, unbidden, mechanical, as though someone else was speaking through me. "I give myself freely to the carnival eternal. My name, my flesh, my memory. My story shall feed the endless night." The moment the last word left my lips, the wind shifted. The fog thickened. Every masked spectator leaned back, sighing as one, like a hunger being momentarily satisfied. Then came the second act. The carousel screeched to a halt. Instantly the clowns stopped dancing. The audience fell dead silent. Mr. Voss turned toward me slowly, his grin spreading until it tore through his cheeks. "Now you see," he whispered, "why we never go near the carousel when it stops." A sound rose from the ride, deep, groaning, alive. The horses turned their heads, glass eyes rolling, manes twisting like hair underwater. Something black leaked from their mouths. The air reeked of oil and decay. "Run!" Marla hissed. "It's waking," but my feet were nailed to the stage. I couldn't move. The blackness from the carousel began to spread, crawling across the ground like a living shadow. It reached the crowd first, touching their shoes, their legs, and the masks began to crack. Beneath each mask wasn't a face. It was nothing, just hollow space and whispers. Marla grabbed my arm, yanking me back. "You have to finish it." "What? How?" "Break the circle!" She pointed toward the carousel. Its horses were now fully still, frozen mid-rear, eyes locked on me. A single golden chain hung from the center post. attached to something pulsing beneath the floorboards. The chain glowed with the same light as my signature. I ran. The shadow chased, cold and screaming, clawing at my legs. I dove for the carousel, gripping the chain. It burned like fire under my skin, searing straight through my palms. The pulsing grew faster, louder, until it matched my heartbeat. Mr. Voss shouted from behind, his voice shaking the air.
"Don't you dare!"
But I pulled. The chain snapped. The entire carnival went dark. When the lights flickered back, there was no audience. No clowns, no music, just silence. Marla stood a few feet away, breathing hard. The carousel had stopped completely, its horses finally still. The air felt lighter. "Is it over?" I asked. She didn't answer right away. For them, maybe. For us? She looked up. Her eyes shimmered with tears that didn't fall. No one ever really leaves the carnival eternal. Behind her, the carousel lights blinked once, twice. Then they began to turn again, slowly, quietly, as if waiting for the next act. And as the music started to play, faint and broken, I realized the truth. The show never ends. Story number 2. I know how it sounds, okay? Everyone keeps saying I imagined it, but I wasn't hallucinating. There really were 2 moons that night, and one of them was watching me. I didn't understand what it wanted until it started wearing my face. You ever look up at the sky and just feel like it's looking back? That's what happened that night. I wasn't supposed to notice anything. I wasn't supposed to look, but something about the way the clouds moved, like they were being pulled apart by invisible strings, made me stop the car and take out my phone. It was just past midnight. I remember because the digital clock on my dashboard kept flickering between 12:04 and 12:05, like it couldn't decide what time it wanted to be. I thought maybe I was just tired. I worked late shifts. My brain's usually sludge by then, but that night the moon looked wrong. It was swollen, pale, hanging too low, like it was struggling to breathe through the haze. So I did what any idiot would do. I started recording. You can still find that clip online if you dig deep enough. The one with the shaky hands and the muffled whisper. That's not right. I keep telling myself it was just my reflection shaking, but when I slow it down, frame by frame, I swear I can see something else in the glass. A shape that doesn't move when I do. At first, it was just one moon, oversized and too bright. Then I blinked, and suddenly, there were 2. I remember thinking maybe it was some weird atmospheric thing, like a reflection, or one of those mirage effects people post on Reddit, but the air went still. The crickets stopped. Even the hum of the streetlights cut out, like the world was holding its breath. I could hear my own pulse in my ears, thud, 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 louder than anything. Then my phone glitched. The camera feed split in half for a fraction of a second. Top half normal, bottom half inverted. I could see myself twice. One image standing there holding the phone, the other tilting its head slightly, smiling. I didn't smile. I dropped the phone. When I picked it up, the feed was fine again, but my reflection in the car window was still smiling, just faintly, like it was trying not to get caught. I didn't move for a solid minute. I told myself it was just a trick of light, that I'd been staring too long, that reflections distort when your eyes can't focus. I told myself a lot of things honestly. But then I heard something, like static, faint but close. My phone screen was flickering again. Notifications popping up and vanishing before I could read them. When I finally caught one, it was just a blank message. No name, no text, just a white bubble, and then another, and another. The last one said, "Don't look directly at it." That's when I panicked. I threw the phone into the passenger seat and got in the car. Locking the doors like that could help. I started the engine, headlights slicing through the fog, and I told myself to stop looking in the mirrors. but curiosity's poison. You can't not look. In the rearview mirror, the two moons were still there. Only now, they were closer together, almost overlapping, like one was swallowing the other. The light they gave off wasn't silver anymore. It was red. I drove. I don't even remember deciding to. I just needed to move. The world outside the car looked flat somehow, like a painting someone had forgotten to finish. And through the windshield, I swear I could see shadows moving on the road, stretching and twisting like something unseen was walking beside me. Halfway home, my radio turned itself on. A soft voice, female I think, started whispering between bursts of static. I couldn't make out the words, but it sounded like she was counting backward. 10, 9, 8. By the time she got to 3, both moons had vanished, just gone. I remember screaming when I realized I'd stopped the car in front of my building and didn't remember driving there. I got out shaking, half expecting to see 2 of everything, 2 streets, 2 doors, 2 versions of me. But there was just the usual stillness of the night, except the air smelled different, like burnt metal and rain. I tried to convince myself it was exhaustion, hallucination, a camera glitch, anything but real. I mean, how do you tell someone the sky duplicated itself? Who would believe that? I went upstairs, still clutching the phone like a weapon. I sat on my bed, hit playback on the video. At first, it was fine. Grainy footage of me looking up, breathing hard. But halfway through, the angle shifted. The camera panned up toward the sky, and for a few seconds, you can see both moons clear as day. Then the camera turned, slowly, back toward me. The problem is, I didn't do that. I never moved it. The last frame froze on my face, eyes wide, mouth half open. Then the screen went black. A second later, a new message appeared. My phone buzzed in my hand. It was from my own number. The attachment was a photo of me standing outside, looking up at the 2 moons. Except I wasn't outside anymore. You know that feeling when your brain tells you something's impossible, but your body reacts anyway? That's what it felt like when I saw that photo. My hands went numb like I'd stuck them in ice water. I just kept staring at the screen. The picture was me. Same jacket, same car, same terrified expression. But the background was wrong. In the photo, there were no clouds, no streetlights, just the 2 moons hanging over me like eyes. I don't even remember dropping the phone, but I must have, because I heard it hit the floor and slide under the bed. My first thought wasn't ghost or monster. It was something way dumber. Someone cloned my phone. Like maybe it was a scam. But when I checked the timestamp, the picture had been taken 10 minutes after I came upstairs, which meant someone was still outside. I turned off the lights and went to the window. My apartment sits on the 3rd floor facing the parking lot. There's a street lamp right under my window that flickers every few seconds. And between each flash, I swear I saw movement. A figure standing exactly where I'd been earlier. Same posture, same tilted head, just staring up at the window. It wasn't moving. I backed away and grabbed my phone again, shaking so bad I could barely type. I called my ex, Jordan. I don't know why. Habit, maybe. They were the last person who'd ever believe something like this. But somehow that made it feel safer. Jordan, listen. There's someone outside. It looks like me. There was a pause, then laughter. You're serious? It's what, after midnight? I'm not joking. You've been working doubles again, haven't you? Get some sleep, babe. You always start seeing things when you don't. I wanted to argue, to scream, but something in their voice, half concern, half exhaustion, made me stop. I just muttered something about calling the cops and hung up, but I didn't call anyone, because what would I even say? Hey officer, my reflection came back to visit. So I filmed it. Yeah, I know how that sounds. But I thought if I could get proof, maybe someone would take me seriously. I pointed the camera out the window, zoomed in on the figure, but the screen showed nothing, just empty pavement. When I lowered the phone, it was still there. That's when the lights in the hallway flickered. Once, twice. Then the sound of footsteps, slow, deliberate, coming up the stairs. I froze. It was the same sound my shoes make on that cheap wooden landing. I told myself it was a neighbour, even though no one else lives on my floor. Then came the knock. 3 short taps. I didn't answer, didn't breathe. The knocks came again, slower this time. I raised my phone, recording again, whispering like some terrified idiot narrating their own nightmare. "There's someone at the door," I said. "I think it's me." Silence. And then a voice on the other side. "You dropped this." It sounded like mine. Not close, not muffled. Exactly mine. I don't remember opening the door. 1 second I was staring at it. The next, the chain lock was swinging. The hallway was empty, but lying on the floor was my phone. The other phone, the one from the photo. When I picked it up, it unlocked automatically. Same wallpaper, same apps, same battery percentage, except the camera roll was full of pictures I'd never taken. Each one was of me in my apartment, sleeping. Different angles, different nights. Some from the foot of the bed, some from right beside my face. That was the first time I threw up from fear. After that, I stopped filming. I deleted my channel, erased my backups, but none of it mattered. Every night that week I saw it again. The shape outside, pacing the parking lot, always looking up at my window. Once, I thought it was gone. But then I noticed something in the corner of the mirror behind me. Just a shape, leaning slightly, watching. The next morning I found footprints, bare, wet, identical to mine, leading from my door to the bathroom mirror. I told Jordan again. This time I was crying. "Please," I said, "I'm losing it. I think it's trying to replace me." They went quiet. Then softly, "You said that before." "What do you mean?" "You called me 2 nights ago. Said the same thing. You were whispering. You said, 'If you see me, don't open the door.'" I didn't call them 2 nights ago. The realization hit me so hard I dropped the phone. I ran to check my call log. There it was. A 2-minute call to Jordan, exactly 48 hours ago. Played it back, expecting static. But it was me, my voice trembling, desperate. It's too late. It already knows how to walk. That's when I looked at the window again. The second moon had returned, hanging lower this time, redder, pulsing faintly like a heartbeat. And below it, standing in the exact same spot, was my double. But now, it was smiling again. I backed away, hit record one last time. My reflection in the screen blinked half a second too late, and before the video cut to black, I heard the door handle turn, softly, patiently, like whoever was on the other side didn't need to rush. You can only go without sleep for so long before your brain starts making monsters out of shadows. That's what I told myself the third night, that everything, the photos, the double, the moons, was just sleep deprivation and bad lighting. But deep down, I knew better. I could feel it watching, even when the sky was clear. I stopped looking out the window, covered the mirrors, unplugged the TV because its reflection kept showing 2 of me. But the feeling didn't leave. It just got smarter. By the 4th night, I'd developed rules. Rule number 1, don't look up after midnight. Rule number 2, if you hear your own voice from outside, don't answer. Rule number 3, never trust your reflection when the moonlight looks red. I recorded those rules in a voice memo just in case I forgot, because lately my memory's been slipping, little gaps in time. I'll blink and suddenly an hour's gone. I'll find myself standing in places I don't remember walking to. I started searching online for anything about a second moon. Scientific articles, Skywatcher forums, conspiracy threads. Most of it was garbage. But then I found this old archived page. The text was scrambled, but one phrase kept repeating. The second moon protocol. According to the thread, people had been seeing the duplicate moon for decades, always during lunar eclipses, always in rural or isolated areas. The post warned, if you see the second moon, don't acknowledge it. Looking up is an invitation. That line burned into me. I found a username that kept popping up in the replies, Mirrored Man. Every message from them ended the same way. If you see it again, run inside and cover your eyes. I messaged him, didn't expect a reply. But a few minutes later, the typing dots appeared. Mirrored Man. When did you see it? Me, 4 nights ago. Mirrored Man. Then it already knows your shape. Don't let it copy your shadow. That last part, copy your shadow, made my stomach twist. I asked him what it meant, but he never answered. His profile vanished before I could refresh the page. That's when the static started again. Not from the phone this time, from the walls. A faint electric hum that pulsed in rhythm with my heartbeat. I pressed my ear against the drywall and could hear something moving inside, like wires tightening or breathing. I tried recording it, but my camera wouldn't focus. Every clip turned out blurry, warped. Sometimes I'd freeze the frame and see a shape, almost human, but stretched. Wrong, like it didn't fit inside the pixels. That night, I decided to test the rules. Just once. I thought maybe facing it would break the hallucination. I told myself I'd just open the blinds for 1 second. 1 second was too long. The sky was red again. The second moon was back, glowing like an ember right above the rooftops. It wasn't round anymore. It was folding, like something inside was pressing to get out. My camera feed glitched. For a moment I saw 2 of me reflected in the glass, one standing still, one smiling. I dropped the phone, backed away shaking. Every instinct screamed not to look up again, but then I heard it. My own voice, whispering from somewhere near the ceiling. You're doing so well. I looked anyway. The ceiling wasn't the ceiling anymore. It was the sky. The 2 moons were staring down through it like open eyes. And right beneath them, upside down but perfectly still, was me. I screamed. The vision shattered. When I came to, I was lying on the floor hours later. My phone was beside me, the screen cracked, camera still recording. The footage shows me sitting up, breathing heavily. And behind me, in the reflection of the window, a second version of me slowly turning its head. I don't remember that part. After that, I barricaded the windows, taped blackout sheets over everything that could show a reflection. But it didn't matter. Wherever there's light, there's a surface, and wherever there's a surface, it finds me. I stopped going outside. I live off canned food now, but sometimes, when the apartment goes quiet, I hear my front door unlock, softly, like someone who's done it 1,000 times. 2 nights ago, I caught movement in the hallway camera, a shape creeping toward my door, slow, deliberate. I paused the video, zoomed in, expecting the same faceless figure, but it was worse. It was me, except my eyes were white, no pupils. And when I hit play, the recording version of me looked up at the camera and smiled like it knew I was watching. Then the clip ended with a whisper, barely audible. But I replayed it 100 times to be sure. Don't look up. That's when I realized the truth. I've been breaking my own rules without knowing it. Maybe I already looked too long. Maybe that thing that talks in my voice isn't outside anymore. Because last night, I woke up to find my blackout curtains pulled open, and the moonlight, no, their light, was shining directly on my bed. 2 shadows stretched across the floor, and only one of them moved when I did. I stopped checking the time days ago, or maybe it's been weeks. My apartment feels detached from everything. No sunrise, no noise. Just that heavy red glow leaking through the cracks where the blackout sheets used to be. I don't remember pulling them down, but someone did. Maybe it was me. Maybe it wasn't. The cameras were supposed to make me feel safe. I bought 6 of them, cheap motion sensor ones from an online store, and set them up in every corner. Living room, kitchen, bedroom. I thought if I could see what was happening, I could control it. But now I'm scared to check the footage. Every night the recordings pile up. Hours of silence, until something flickers near the edge of the frame. A movement, a breath, a version of me that doesn't quite move right. At first, the doubles only appeared in reflections. Now they show up in the videos. The first time, I was sitting on the couch, talking into the camera about the rules, reminding myself what not to do. In the corner of the frame behind me, something shifted. A shadow at first, then a shape stepping forward, blurred but familiar. I paused the video, heart hammering. Zoomed in. It was me, but the grin didn't match my face. My reflection's mouth was wider, too wide. That smile hasn't left since. I started keeping the lights off completely. Thought maybe darkness would hide me from it, but it likes the dark. That's when it speaks. I'll be whispering to myself, and I'll hear another whisper, half a second behind, repeating my words but changing 1 or 2. Me. I'm fine. It. You're mine. Sometimes I think it's mocking me. Other times I think it's teaching me how to sound like it. The videos keep changing too. I've noticed that when I rewatch them, they're different from how I remember. A chair will be turned slightly. A picture frame missing. My voice echoing from another room where I wasn't. Last night, I found footage labeled Rex 0027. It showed me sleeping, but the camera had been recording from inside the closet. I never put one in there. When I scrubbed through the clip, around the 2-minute mark, the door creaked open. I sat up in bed, confused, and the me behind the camera whispered, "Don't wake him yet." I shut off the feed and smashed the camera, but the next morning, it was back on the shelf, perfectly intact. The second moon hasn't appeared in the sky for 2 nights now. At least that's what I tell myself. I've stopped looking up, but the red light still seeps in, softer now, almost warm. Sometimes I forget to be afraid. I'll catch myself smiling at nothing. That's what scares me the most. I think it's trying to wear me down, make me forget which one of us is real. And maybe it's working. I can't remember recording half of what's on my phone anymore. Clips of me whispering things I don't understand. Lists written on the wall in black marker. 1 moon's safe. 2 means it's awake. If it smiles back, close your eyes. You can't kill what learns to mimic. I don't remember writing any of that. Earlier tonight, I decided to test it, to see if I could catch the thing face to face. I set up all the cameras. Every light pointed toward the mirror in my living room. Then I sat across from it and waited. At first, nothing. Just me, staring at myself. The silence was thick, like the air didn't want to move. Then the lights flickered, and my reflection blinked out of sync. I froze. My reflection smiled, slow and deliberate, lips stretching wider than skin should allow. It raised its hand. I didn't, and then the mirror rippled. Like water, I stumbled backward, knocking over the tripod. The camera kept rolling, spinning sideways as something stepped through. I saw my own hand reach out of the mirror first, paler, trembling, leaving streaks of condensation on the glass. Then came the rest of me. It didn't speak. It just watched, studying me like a predator learning its prey's movements. Every time I breathed, it breathed. Every time I whispered, it tilted its head, fascinated. Then it smiled again. That same too wide grin, the one from the footage, and I smiled back. I don't even know why. Maybe it's instinct. Maybe the moment you see your double, something inside you wants to join it, to stop fighting. I felt this pull, like gravity in reverse, dragging me toward the mirror. For a second, I swear I saw two skies inside the reflection, two moons glowing above us both. Then everything went white. When I woke up, the cameras were all off. Every screen frozen on a single frame. Me and my reflection, both smiling at the same angle. I think the recording stopped just before we touched. Now, as I talk to you, I'm watching the live feed again. It's me on the screen, sitting here whispering this story. But the me in the feed isn't moving his lips anymore. He's just smiling. If you're watching this, I need you to listen carefully. Don't pause. Don't rewind. Just listen, because I don't know how long I have before the other one starts talking again. I haven't slept in. God, I don't even know. The clocks don't match anymore. Every one of them says a different time. I tried marking the days on the wall, but the marks move around when I'm not looking. I think it's doing that to confuse me. Or maybe I'm the one doing it when I lose time. Either way, I can't trust myself anymore. I've started recording everything, even while I sleep, if I actually sleep. Every morning I wake up to new videos. Sometimes they're of me walking around the apartment, whispering into the camera. Sometimes they're just static, but sometimes it's me looking directly into the lens, saying things I don't remember saying. Things like, he's inside now. Don't let him see your teeth. You'll know you've switched when the light feels warm. I've been rewatching the clip from last night, the one from the living room. The moment I smiled back, the audio's distorted. But if you slow it down, right after the screen flashes white, there's a second voice, mine, but deeper, saying, your turn. Since then, nothing feels right. The air tastes metallic, like breathing pennies. My reflection doesn't blink when I do. Sometimes it moves first. I tried leaving the apartment today, packed a bag, grabbed my keys, but when I opened the door, it wasn't the hallway outside. It was the sky, not blue sky, not clouds, just red light and two moons hanging motionless. I slammed the door shut, but a sliver of that light slipped through. It crawled across the floor like liquid, slow and deliberate until it touched my foot. And for a moment, just a moment, I could see another me standing right beside me, whispering something I couldn't hear. That's when I realized the light isn't coming from outside anymore. It's coming from me. I keep thinking about that message, the one I got from my own number. Don't look directly at it. What if it wasn't a warning? What if it was an instruction? What if looking is how it enters? I can hear it now, my voice, coming from the other room. It's humming softly like an old lullaby, the same tune my mother used to sing when I was a kid. But she's been gone for years. I shouldn't remember that sound so clearly. Unless it's using my memories now. I keep the camera rolling as I move through the hallway. The hum gets louder, closer, until it's right behind the bedroom door. My hands shaking as I grab the handle. I tell myself not to open it, but I already am. The room is empty, except for the mirror, and in it another me. He looks calm, peaceful even. He lifts his hand, gesturing for me to come closer. His mouth moves, forming words I can't hear, but somehow I know what he's saying. It's easier if you stop resisting. I step closer. The camera shakes as I whisper back, "What are you?" He tilts his head, then smiles. You. And the thing is, he's not wrong. The reflection moves exactly like me, only half a second early. It's like it's predicting what I'm going to do before I do it. I wave. He waves first. I blink. He doesn't. His eyes stay open, glowing faintly with that same soft red hue as the second moon. The lights flicker again. The camera glitches. For a split second, there are two of me standing side by side in the frame. Then it merges into one. When the feed stabilizes, I'm still staring at the mirror, but my reflection is gone. That's when the whisper comes, from behind the camera this time. Stop recording. I spin around, but there's no one there. Just the faint sound of static bleeding through the speakers. The hum of the world feels heavier now, slower. I can't tell if I'm still filming or if I'm watching something that already happened. My voice overlaps itself, one calm, one frantic. If you see two moons tonight, hide. No, wait. Don't hide. It finds you faster that way. It's too late anyway. I don't know which one of us said that last part. The walls are breathing now. The red light pulses in time with my heartbeat. I can't tell if the camera's still recording or if it's showing me what comes next. My face flickers on the screen, normal for a second, then twisted. Wrong. The mouth keeps moving even when I stop talking. I think it's finished copying me. If you're watching this, if somehow this video made it online, please, don't look up tonight. If you see two moons, don't take pictures. Don't film it. Just hide your eyes and wait until the sky looks empty again. Because once it sees you, it never forgets your face. The recording glitches again. The frame splits. Top half me sitting here. Bottom half something darker, still smiling. I think it's my turn to talk now. The camera tips over. The screen fills with static. Two faint shapes appear, overlapping, whispering in unison. We're the same now. And then, silence. Until, somewhere behind the static, a familiar voice whispers one last thing. If you see this upload under my name, that isn't me. Story number 2. They told me the bus only moves when I'm alone, but that's not true. Last night, I saw her reflection in every window. And this morning, they found her body on Route 9, still wearing my uniform. They say the night shift is quiet, but that's a lie. It's not the kind of quiet that soothes you. It's the kind that listens. You can feel it pressing against the windows, waiting for you to make a mistake. I used to think I was imagining that part, but after last month, I'm not so sure anymore. My name's Mark Hensley. I've been driving the NJ Transit Night Route 47 for almost 10 years. It's a lonely stretch that cuts through the industrial outskirts of Bayville, past the river, the woods, and a row of half-dead factories that still hum like they're breathing. I always liked that route. It gave me space to think. The hum of the engine, the empty seats, the way the streetlights drifted by like ghosts on a leash. Back then, the rules were simple. Drive safe, stay on time, no unauthorized stops. Then, a few months ago, everything changed. They handed me a new envelope. No explanation. Just a man in a grey jacket. Someone I'd never seen before, waiting by the dispatch window. He didn't smile, didn't talk. Just handed me the envelope and said, "These are your new operating procedures. Follow everyone." When I opened it later that night, the paper inside wasn't official. It looked like it had been typed on an old typewriter. The ink smudged. There were exactly 10 rules. No title, no signature, no company stamp. Just 10 short, ridiculous sentences. Never stop between stations 3 and 4.2. Don't look in the mirrors after 12:30 a.m. 3. If someone waves you down outside the route, they're not real, I laughed. Out loud, right there in the driver's seat. Some prank, I thought. Maybe one of the guys from dispatch was trying to mess with me. But the more I read, the more wrong it felt. There was something old about those rules. Like they'd been written before I was even born. By 11:40 that night, I was on my second run. The bus rattled through the wet streets, headlights carving through mist that never seemed to clear. Station 3 came and went like always. Empty bench, one flickering light. But as I approached the dark stretch towards Station 4, I felt something shift. Usually I'd glance at the mirrors to check the back, but that line, "Don't look after 12:30, was stuck in my head. It wasn't 12:30 yet, but I swear my hand started shaking just thinking about it. I told myself it was superstition, nothing more. Rules meant to keep drivers alert, maybe even scare us into staying awake. Still, that first night I followed them, just in case. I didn't stop between stations. I didn't look in the mirrors. And when I saw someone standing by the roadside, arm raised, I drove right past. That image hasn't left me. It wasn't just a shadow. I remember seeing the sleeve of a red hoodie, soaked from the rain. The figure didn't move or shout, just stood there, arm out, palm forward, like a statue. The face, God, I can't describe it clearly. Every time I try, it blurs in my head, like a memory that won't stay still. When I finished my route, I told the dispatcher about the new rules. He looked confused, said he'd never heard of them. There were no memos, no internal updates, nothing. And no one in management had ever heard of a man in a grey jacket. That's when I started feeling like someone was playing with me. Over the next few nights, things got worse. Every time I clocked in, the envelope was waiting on the dashboard. Same old yellow paper, same rules. Sometimes they were rearranged, sometimes rewritten. Tiny differences, like a game. Once, I swear the list had 11 rules. I blinked, looked again, and there were 10. I didn't tell anyone after that. Not the dispatcher, not the other drivers. You start talking about ghosts or cursed routes, and they send you to wellness evaluation. I needed this job. I still do. I kept driving. I followed the route like clockwork. No detours, no stops between 3 and 4. But the road felt different after midnight. The hum of the bus changed pitch, softer somehow, like it was breathing in sync with me. And sometimes, when I passed the old overpass near Station 4, the radio crackled, just static, until it wasn't. Once I heard a voice, a woman's voice, whispering so faintly I thought it was the engine at first. She said one word, "Stop." I didn't. I drove faster, eyes fixed on the road, but I couldn't shake the feeling she was still there. Standing by the road in the rain, watching me pass her again and again. I know what you're thinking. Sleep deprivation, right? Hallucinations. But that doesn't explain the envelopes. It doesn't explain the rule changes. And it sure doesn't explain what I saw last Thursday when I broke rule number 1. That's where it really started. You see, there was a night I just couldn't take it anymore. The silence, the rules, the feeling that I was being tested. Around midnight, between stations 3 and 4, I saw headlights flashing behind me. Another bus. But there's only one night route on that line. I slowed down. The lights disappeared, and then I saw her again. The same red hoodie, the same stillness. I stopped, just for a second. And that's when I realized the rules weren't about safety at all. They were warnings. I shouldn't have stopped. I keep telling myself that, over and over, but my hands did it before my brain caught up. The brakes hissed, the bus shuddered, and in that narrow stretch between stations 3 and 4, everything went still. At first, I thought it was just the wind. The trees around that road always look like they're leaning closer, trying to listen. But then I saw her, standing there under the flickering streetlight. Red hoodie, same one from before, her head tilted slightly, like she was confused to see me. There was something wrong with the way she stood. Too straight, too still, like she hadn't moved in hours. I opened the doors anyway. The sound echoed across the empty road. She stepped in without a word. No ticket, no question. Just walked down the aisle and sat 3 rows back. I remember her smell first. wet asphalt and something faintly metallic, like pennies soaked in rainwater. She never looked at me, not directly, but I could feel her eyes through the reflection in the front mirror. I told myself not to check, but you know how it is when someone's watching you. You have to look, so I did, and she smiled, just a small, sad smile, nothing sinister, but something about it made my stomach turn. It was the kind of smile people wear when they already know how the story ends. I tried to break the tension. "Rough night?" I asked, pretending my voice wasn't shaking. No answer. She just reached into her backpack, this old, faded thing, and pulled out a small plastic keychain. A bus pass, maybe. It had our company logo on it, but the picture was gone. Just a white blur where the face should have been. That's when I noticed her hands. The tips of her fingers were grey, like she dipped them in soot. She was wet to the bone, but no puddles formed under her shoes. The floor stayed dry. I told myself it was exhaustion, hallucination, the kind of trick your brain plays after too many shifts and too little sleep. Still, I couldn't stop glancing at the mirror. Every time I looked, her head was tilted at a slightly different angle, watching me. At one point, she whispered something. I didn't catch it at first. I thought she said stop. Then I thought it was sorry. But the third time, I heard it clearly. You weren't supposed to look back. Her voice wasn't angry. It was disappointed. I slammed on the brakes. When I turned around, she was gone. The bus was empty. The seats were dry. No footprints. No sign she'd ever been there. I checked the clock. 12:47 a.m. Past the time. Way past the mirror rule. I tried to laugh it off, but my throat was too tight. My hands wouldn't stop shaking. I finished the route on autopilot, every stop empty. When I got back to the depot, I told the night guard I thought I'd picked up a passenger who ran off mid-route. He said no one was reported missing. When I went back to my bus later that morning, I found something on the dashboard. A cracked rearview mirror, the one I'd looked into that night. No note, no explanation, just that mirror, propped upright, with a faint handprint smeared across the glass. I didn't tell anyone. Who would believe me? I barely believed it myself. But that night I started noticing things. The air in the bus felt heavier. The reflection in the window sometimes didn't match what was behind me. And sometimes, only sometimes, I heard tapping on the glass behind my seat. I kept driving anyway. Bills don't pay themselves, and I thought maybe if I ignored it long enough, it would stop. But it didn't. Every night, around Station 4, something strange started happening. The bus lights would flicker just once. The engine would drop to a low hum, like it was struggling to stay alive. And in the corner of my eye, I'd see movement in the reflection. Someone walking the aisle. I stopped checking. I followed the rules again, rigidly, desperately. Then a week later, I made a mistake. I told one of the other drivers, Tony, about it. He laughed, called it late shift madness. But when I showed him the rules list, his face went pale. He said he'd seen a list like that before, years ago, when another driver named Claiborne vanished on the same route. The company scrubbed his record clean. No file, no termination, no retirement. Just gone. That's when I started realizing it wasn't a prank. The rules weren't for safety. They were for survival. And I think I'd already broken too many of them. The next night, when I stepped onto the bus, there was another envelope waiting for me on the driver's seat. Same yellow paper, same ink. But the rules were different. 10 new lines. My name typed at the top. The first one read, "Do not speak to her reflection again." And the last one, "You've already looked back once. You won't get another chance." I didn't understand what it meant then, but I do now. I didn't sleep that morning. How could I? That envelope was sitting on my kitchen table, its yellow paper glowing faintly under the weak light, like it was alive. 10 new rules. each one more personal than the last. They weren't about the bus anymore. They were about me. I don't even remember bringing it home, but when I opened my bag, there it was. Same old typewriter ink, same smell of machine oil and something faintly sweet, like old perfume. I kept reading the first line over and over. Do not speak to her reflection again. Her reflection, not her. Whoever wrote that knew. I tried to convince myself it was a cruel joke. Someone from Dispatch, maybe Tony, trying to freak me out after I told him about the girl. But no one else knew the details. The mirror, the voice, the missing time. Nobody but me. The second rule was worse. Apologize when the lights flicker. What does that even mean? Apologize to who? By the third line, I felt sick. You owe a passenger a confession. I stopped reading after that. Crumpled the paper, threw it in the trash, and poured myself a drink. I don't remember much else except sitting there until the sun came up, listening to the faint hum of traffic outside. When I finally showed up for my next shift, Tony wasn't there. The guy at the counter said he'd called in sick. I checked his locker. It was empty, cleared out. Something about that hit me hard. The depot felt different that night. Quiet, but not peaceful, like everyone was holding their breath. When I got to my bus, I saw the mirror again. The cracked one I'd found days ago. It was gone from my kitchen. Somehow it was back on the dashboard, same smear across the glass. Someone had wiped the dust away from the driver's seat too, as if they'd been sitting there. I told myself to just do the route, stick to the plan, no detours, no looking back. By midnight, the rain had started again. The wipers kept squealing against the glass, and the headlights caught the water in long, trembling streaks. It was the kind of weather that swallows everything, road, sky, sound. Then the radio crackled. I don't normally listen to it. It's mostly dispatch chatter, static or dead air. But that night, a voice came through, faint, like it was whispering from a tunnel. Mark. It wasn't a full sentence, just my name. Soft, almost tender. I froze. My hand hovered over the dial. Mark. You owe me. I killed the radio. My pulse was hammering. Maybe some kid hacked the frequency, I thought. Or maybe I was finally losing it. Then the lights flickered. The fluorescent bulbs above me buzzed, dimmed and flared again. For a split second, everything went white. I heard a soft breath behind me, close enough that my skin went cold. I didn't turn around. I just whispered, God help me. I'm sorry. And the lights stopped flickering. I kept driving. I don't know how long. It felt like hours. Like the road had stretched itself into something endless. When I reached Station 4, the bus slowed on its own. I swear I didn't touch the brakes. The doors hissed open. No one was there, except something was on the seat 3 rows back. A red hoodie folded neatly, still wet. Underneath it, a small, water-stained envelope. My hands were shaking so bad I could barely tear it open. Inside was another list. Same typewriter ink. Only this one had one single line. Confess before the last stop. I stared at that note for what felt like forever. Then the bus engine sputtered, the lights dimmed again, and every reflection in the windows shifted. The empty seats weren't empty anymore. Shapes, blurred, faint, sat watching me. I told myself not to look, not to count them. But one shape in the very back was clearer than the rest. The same red hoodie. I hit the gas. The bus lurched forward. The reflections didn't move. Somewhere between stations 5 and 6 I blacked out. I don't remember stopping. I don't remember parking. I just remember waking up to silence, the engine cold, the lights off. When I opened my eyes, I was sitting in the tunnel under Route 9. My watch said 3:03 a.m. I'd lost nearly an hour. The windshield was fogged up from the inside, and someone had written a single word on the glass with their finger. Guilty. That was 2 nights ago. Now every time I start the bus, the lights flicker once. I whisper, "I'm sorry," just in case, but it's not enough. I can feel it. Last night, I went to the company office to look for the man who gave me the first envelope, the one in the grey jacket. There's no record of him, no security footage, no employee file. But when I checked the logbook from the night I first saw him, the signature beside my name wasn't mine. It was his, Mr. Claiborne, and under his name, a note written in faded ink, "Rules acknowledged, driver replacement approved." I don't know what that means. Not yet, but I think I'm starting to understand the last line of that new list. Confess before the last stop. Because maybe the route never ends until I do. You ever try to bury a memory so deep that even you start believing it never happened? I did, and it worked, at least until she got back on my bus. I'm talking about Rebecca. Yeah, that Rebecca. My fiancée, ex-fiancée technically. She disappeared 2 years ago, and I told everyone, including myself, that she just walked out after an argument. But that wasn't the truth. Not all of it. I didn't want to remember the rest. That night started like any other. Rain, mist, the usual lonely quiet that clings to Route 47. I'd already found that last envelope, the one that said, "Confess before the last stop." I kept it in my jacket pocket, crumpled and damp, like a guilty secret I couldn't throw away. When I pulled into Station 4, the bus slowed again on its own. The engine gave a low, strangled groan. The lights flickered once, twice, and I didn't even need to turn my head. I knew who'd be waiting there. She stepped out of the fog exactly the way I remembered. Red hoodie, jeans, hair plastered to her cheeks from the rain. Only her eyes were different. Too dark, too still. I couldn't move, couldn't breathe. The doors opened by themselves. She walked up the steps, her sneakers squeaking against the floor, and sat in the same seat she used to, 3rd row, window side, like she'd never left. "You're late," she said softly. Her voice wasn't angry, but it hit me like a blade. I tried to play it off, told her I was just tired, maybe dreaming, but she laughed, a small hollow sound that echoed in the empty bus. "You still think this is about the rules?" she asked. I didn't answer. I couldn't. The rules. I realized then they weren't company orders or ghostly warnings. They were reminders, my own, the things I swore I'd never do again. Never stop between stations 3 and 4. Don't look in the mirrors. Don't talk to her reflection, because the last time I broke them, Rebecca never made it home. I saw flashes, her screaming, the road slick with rain, my hands gripping the wheel too tight, the bus jerking forward, the fight, her running toward the back door, the brakes failing. Then, nothing. I blinked and she was gone. Just the faint scent of wet iron in the air. But when I looked up, every window showed her face, staring back at me. Dozens of reflections, all whispering in unison. Confess. I tried to speak, but my throat locked. The lights dimmed until only the dashboard glowed. The engine coughed once, then died. Silence. Then a soft knock from inside the bus. I turned slowly toward the rear door. She was standing there again, half in shadow, dripping rainwater onto the floor. But this time, her hoodie wasn't red. It was black and torn at the chest. "You left me here," she said. "You left me in the dark." I started, but she cut me off. "Say it. Say what you did." My heart was pounding so hard I thought it would burst. The air smelled like rust and ozone. The ceiling lights flickered, revealing something smeared along the aisle. A trail of wet footprints leading from her seat to the driver's cabin. I picked up the radio, desperate, yelling for dispatch, static. Then a voice crackled through. Not Rebecca's this time, a man's. Calm, measured. Mr. Hensley, this is Supervisor Claiborne. Proceed to Rebecca's stop. You know where it is." The radio clicked dead. Claiborne, the name from the signature, the one who supposedly vanished. I don't remember driving. The road unfolded like a dream, empty and endless. The headlights barely touched the fog ahead. Then the bus slowed, unprompted, and the GPS flickered to a location that didn't exist. A blank space between Station 4 and Station 5 labelled simply, "Rebecca's Stop." When the doors opened, rain poured in sideways, drenching everything. The world outside was nothing but trees and darkness. No road, no sign, just mud and branches. She stood there again, waiting. "I didn't mean to," I whispered. "It was an accident." "You shouldn't have looked back," she said. Then she smiled, the same sad, knowing smile she'd given me that night. She reached out, touched my face with those cold grey fingers, and whispered, "Now you see why the rules exist." Her touch burned, not like fire, like guilt, like memory, the kind you can't wash off. I blinked, and she was gone again. The doors closed. The windshield cleared. The GPS went blank. When I got back to the depot, I tried showing the footage from the security cameras, desperate to prove I wasn't insane. But when I played it back, all I saw was an empty bus. No passenger, no Rebecca, just me, talking to the air, apologizing to nothing. They said I looked sick, told me to take a few days off. But when I checked the system logs later, my video had already been deleted. The file name had changed to Rule 11. There were only ever supposed to be 10. Now I understand what the last one means. Confess before the last stop. Because the route isn't about destinations. It's about remembrance. Every mile is another lie I've told myself. And the final stop. That's where truth waits. I didn't plan to drive that night. In fact, I'd promised myself I wouldn't. But promises don't mean much when the bus calls your name. You think I'm exaggerating. I'm not. The radio buzzed to life around midnight. No dispatcher, no static, just one soft voice whispering, "Route 47 needs you. Mark." The same tone Rebecca used to use when she'd asked me to come to bed. I should have walked away. Should have quit like the others did. But something about that voice, something cold and magnetic, dragged me back to the depot. And when I got there, the lights inside bus number 47 were already on. Engine humming, door open like a waiting mouth. The key wasn't even in the ignition. I climbed aboard, trembling. The interior smelled faintly of rain and burnt dust. My reflection in the front glass looked wrong, too pale, too hollow. When I turned on the headlights, the route display flickered to life on its own. Last run, 12:30 a.m. to terminal unknown. The words shouldn't exist. There's no terminal unknown in any system, but the GPS pulsed faintly, like a heartbeat, urging me forward. The first few miles were silent except for the wipers dragging across the glass. The city was gone almost immediately. No lights, no roads, no sound but the engine's low groan. It was like the world had folded inward. At exactly 12:33 a.m., the mirror above me rattled. Rule number 2 flashed through my head. Don't look in the mirrors after 12:30 a.m. I tried not to, but curiosity is a cruel thing. I glanced up. Rebecca sat in the back row, staring at me through the reflection. Her face was softer this time, almost human again. But behind her, other shapes flickered. Blurred faces, half seen in the shadows. Passengers I'd driven years ago. Some I hadn't thought about in ages. A few I knew were dead. The mirror began to ripple like water. They all broke the rules, Rebecca whispered. Just like you. I slammed the brakes, but the bus didn't stop. It couldn't. The road beneath us wasn't asphalt anymore. It looked like black glass, stretching forever. Every time the headlights cut through the fog, I saw something new. First, a stop sign with no pole. Then, a torn red hoodie lying in the middle of the lane. Then, the bus number 47 painted across the road in fresh white letters. I realized the route wasn't taking me somewhere. It was showing me everything I buried. The fights, the mistakes, the moments I'd laughed off as superstition. The night Rebecca vanished, replayed again. But this time, I saw it differently. The argument wasn't about her jealousy, it was about the rules. She'd begged me to listen. She'd seen the same passengers, the same strange faces outside the windows. She knew what the envelopes meant. "They're not warnings, Mark," she'd said that night. "They're contracts." And I'd laughed until she ran, until I turned the wheel too late, until the bus hit something I told myself was a tree. Now, the glass road below me shimmered, and I could see it wasn't a road at all. It was water, still, black, endless. The reflection staring back wasn't mine anymore. It was hers. Rebecca stood in front of the bus now, her hand raised. I should have stopped, but my hands weren't on the wheel anymore. The bus slowed on its own. "You broke every rule," she said softly, "but you kept one promise." "What promise?" I asked. "You said you'd drive me home." Then she stepped onto the road, into the mist, and disappeared. The bus doors hissed open. Wind howled through the cabin. I don't know what made me do it, but I followed her. The moment my foot hit the ground, everything went silent. No rain, no engine, just the faint hum of electricity in the air. The world around me blurred, light bending, stretching, until I realized I was standing at a bus terminal. Not the NJ Transit Depot, something older, something wrong. The signs overhead were rusted and broken. Every route listed one destination, terminal unknown, and every bus parked there had a driver inside, each one frozen at the wheel, eyes open but empty. I recognized some of them, men who'd trained me years ago. One of them even waved. Then I saw it, an old clipboard hanging near the wall, a manifest, Route 47, driver, Mark Hensley, status, assigned. Below it, someone had scrawled a note in red, confessed. Proceed to final stop. The ground trembled. Lights flickered. I turned, and Busner 47 was behind me again, engine idling. The driver's seat was empty, waiting. Rebecca stood by the open door, smiling faintly. "It's okay now," she whispered. "You can rest." I climbed in, feeling lighter. The guilt, the noise, the rules, all fading. For the first time, the mirrors showed nothing at all, just the night. The bus rolled forward on its own, drifting into the fog. The dashboard flickered one last time, displaying new text I'd never seen before. Final stop reached. Then everything went dark. They found bus number 47 3 days later, engine running, doors open, not a single soul inside. The radio still crackled with faint static, repeating the same phrase every few minutes. Route 47 needs a driver. And if you ever see that bus on an empty road after midnight, don't wave it down, because whoever's driving now isn't supposed to stop. Story number 4. If you ever stay at the Ridgepine Lodge, don't open your door after midnight, no matter who's knocking. I learned that the hard way. The problem is, I was the one doing the knocking. If you ever stay at Ridgepine Lodge, don't open your door after midnight, no matter who's knocking. I didn't believe that rule when I first heard it. I thought it was one of those creepy local stories meant to scare rookies. But the thing about Ridgepine is that the rules aren't to protect the guests. They're to protect us. The first thing I remember about Ridgepine Lodge was the silence. Not the peaceful kind, the sort that presses against your ears until your own heartbeat sounds too loud. Snow buried the road behind me, the pine trees leaned like sentinels, and the air smelled like cold metal. I stood there with my duffel bag, watching the windows flicker with warm amber light. It looked inviting from a distance, but as I got closer, that light felt wrong, too still, too watchful. Mr. Delaney met me at the door. He was tall, thin, and dressed like the mountain itself. Layers of grey and brown, eyes that never quite blinked at the right time. "You must be Evan," he said, extending a gloved hand. His grip was dry, papery. "You're late. I got caught in the snow," I told him. Road disappeared for a while. He didn't smile. "The mountain does that. It decides who gets to come and go." I laughed awkwardly, but he didn't. That should have been my first warning. Inside, Ridgepine Lodge was all wood and whispers. The ceilings were high, the walls lined with framed photographs of people who smiled too widely, like they were being told to hold still. A fire crackled in the main hall, but even that seemed to burn quietly, like it knew better than to make noise. Delaney led me upstairs to the employee quarters. "We've had trouble with outsiders," he said as we climbed. "People who don't understand the way things work here. You'll be different, I hope." He stopped on the landing and faced me. "There are 3 rules you'll follow. Break them and you'll be gone by morning. Understood?" I nodded, though something in my gut twisted. "1, he said, holding up a finger. "No guests after midnight. The lodge is closed then, and the mountain doesn't like uninvited company. 2, every mirror must be covered after sundown. Sheets, towels, doesn't matter. Just make sure no reflections left uncovered. And 3, never, under any circumstance, enter room 313. He said that last one slower. I tried to joke, something dumb like, "Is it haunted?" But his face didn't move. "The lodge has its way of keeping things in order," he said. "Respect that and you'll do fine." When he left me alone, I laughed to myself. Rules about mirrors and rooms with bad numbers. It all felt like an initiation prank. I'd worked winter jobs before. Managers love their ghost stories. But still, the way the other employees glanced at me that evening made my stomach knot. Their smiles were too quick, their eyes tired, like they'd all learned the hard way not to ask questions. My room was small but clean. A twin bed, a wooden dresser, a single window overlooking the slope. I unpacked, plugged in my phone, no service of course, and stared at the old mirror across from the bed. Its surface shimmered faintly, warped from years of humidity. I thought about the rule and, just to humour Delaney, draped a towel over it. Dinner was quiet. A few of us gathered around a long wooden table, staff from different parts of the lodge. Housekeeping, cooks, maintenance. When I mentioned the rules, no one looked at me. One of them, a woman named Mara, just muttered, "You'll understand soon." Understand what? I wanted to ask, but she stood up and left before dessert. By 10 o'clock, snow had swallowed the world outside. The wind screamed down the chimney, and the lights flickered like the building was breathing. I lay in bed, staring at the towel covering the mirror. I tried to convince myself I wasn't nervous, that the sound of footsteps in the hall was just another worker on night shift. At 11:45, I heard the first knock. Soft. 3 taps. Then silence. I held my breath. Maybe I imagined it. Then again, 3 knocks, a little louder this time. "Hello?" I called out. No response. I reached for my phone. Dead battery. The digital clock beside the bed blinked 12:17 a.m. Then I heard it. "Evan." It was barely a whisper muffled through the wood, but it was my name. My own name! I sat up, heart slamming against my ribs. Who's there? A pause, then Evan. Open the door! I froze. It sounded exactly like me. The same inflection, the same tired tone, like I was listening to a recording of myself. I tried to laugh it off. Sleep deprivation, stress, isolation. That's what I told myself anyway. The wind howled, the floor creaked, and the voice faded into the distance. When I finally worked up the nerve to peek through the peephole, no one was there. Just the empty corridor stretching into darkness. The kind that seems to breathe when you stare too long. I should have gone back to bed, but something in me shifted that night. I kept thinking about the way the staff looked at me during dinner, like they already knew what would happen, like this was a story that had played out before. When morning came, Delaney was waiting in the hall. You slept well, I hope? He asked. Fine, I lied. His eyes lingered on my face, searching for something. Then he smiled faintly, the first smile I'd seen from him. Good, you'll need your rest. Tonight will be harder. He walked away, leaving me in silence again, the towel still hanging over the mirror. And I remember thinking, harder than what? I know what you're thinking. Maybe I imagined the knocking. Maybe it was the wind or the pipes. That's what I told myself too. But the thing about Ridgepine Lodge is, it remembers what you deny. And it doesn't like being ignored. After that first night, nothing felt the same. Every sound carried weight. The hum of the lights, the groan of old wood, even my own breathing. I tried to convince myself I'd dreamed the voice, that stress was playing tricks on me. But the next morning, when I opened my door, there were footprints in the snow outside my room. Bare footprints. Delaney brushed past me in the hallway, eyes sharp. You left your window open? He asked. No, I said quickly. Why? He didn't answer. Just crouched down, touched one of the prints with his gloved hand, and muttered something under his breath before walking away. By noon, the sky had swallowed itself in white. The storm was thick enough to erase the edges of the world. I spent the day helping guests with luggage, restocking the firewood, trying to pretend things were normal, but that uneasy silence clung to me. Even laughter from the guests sounded muted, like the walls were swallowing the sound before it could echo. That evening, I ran into Mara again near the laundry room. She was folding sheets, her movements brisk, robotic. When she saw me, she stopped. You heard it, didn't you? She asked quietly. I hesitated. Heard what? She gave me this small knowing smile, tired, sad. The knocking. I stared. How do you... Everyone hears it. The mountain tests you. It finds the weak spots. Her voice shook. Just don't answer. Whatever it sounds like, whoever it sounds like, don't answer. Before I could respond, Delaney's voice echoed from the hall. Mara! Back to your station. She flinched, dropped a folded towel, and walked off without looking at me again. When I picked the towel up, I realized my hands were trembling. Later that night, while doing my rounds, I noticed something strange. The lodge had 4 floors, but the elevator panel skipped the 3rd. It went from 2 straight to 4. I thought it was just an old design quirk, until I felt vibrations beneath my feet, rhythmic, like footsteps pacing directly above me. I checked the floor map near the stairwell. No mention of a 3rd floor, just blank space where the numbers should have been. My curiosity got the better of me. I took the stairs up, counting carefully. 1st floor, lobby. 2nd, guest rooms. 4th, executive suites. And yet, between the 2nd and 4th, there was a narrow landing, sealed by a heavy wooden door with no handle. A faded brass plate hung crookedly where a number should have been. I don't know why, but I pressed my ear against it. Something was breathing on the other side. I jerked back, nearly tripping. The air was freezing. my breath visible. Then I heard faint scratching, slow, deliberate, like fingernails tracing along wood. I stumbled back down the stairs, my flashlight flickering, until I reached the second floor again. A guest was standing there, an older man in a thick robe, pale as the snow outside. He looked disoriented. "Is everything all right, sir?" I asked. He blinked slowly. I heard someone crying upstairs. I glanced toward the stairwell. "There's no floor above this one," he frowned. "Of course there is. My wife's room is up there." He pointed upward, and for a second I swear I saw a faint light bleeding from the sealed landing. A soft glow like candlelight, then it was gone. That night I couldn't sleep. The wind outside had stopped, but inside, the building seemed alive. Pipes ticked, floors creaked, doors sighed against their hinges, and through it all, I could hear the faintest whispering, like someone murmuring my name through a wall of snow. I pulled the towel tighter over the mirror. By 1 a.m., the whispers stopped. I decided to step out for some air, maybe calm my nerves. As I walked past the hall mirror near the stairs, I froze. For a second, I thought I saw movement, not in the glass, but behind it. A flicker of someone standing there, too tall to be me. I stumbled backward, heart pounding. When I looked again, the reflection was normal, just me. But something about my expression didn't match what I felt. The reflection was smiling, just slightly. The next morning, Mara didn't show up for breakfast duty. Delaney said she'd gone home, but there were no tire tracks leading down the mountain, and her locker was still full. I asked around. The other staff pretended not to know her. Even the guest log had her name scribbled out, replaced with someone else's handwriting. I found a note in the laundry room, tucked behind a pile of towels. It just said, "If you forget the rules, the mountain won't forget you." That night, I wrote my own reminder and taped it above my bed. No guests after midnight. Cover the mirrors. Never go to the third floor, except. When I woke up at 12:14 a.m., the note was gone, and from somewhere above my ceiling, I heard footsteps again. Slow, dragging, deliberate. It shouldn't be possible. There is no third floor. You ever hear your own voice when you're alone? Not a recording, not an echo, just your voice, whispering from somewhere it shouldn't be. I thought I was losing my mind. But the thing is, maybe Ridgepine was just reminding me who I really was. After Mara vanished, the lodge grew quieter, but not in the peaceful way. It was the kind of silence that waits, like it's holding its breath for something. I told myself I'd imagined her, that maybe I mixed her up with another employee. That's what Delaney wanted me to believe anyway. But every time I passed the laundry room, I swore I could still smell her perfume. The next few days blurred together. Guests came and went. Snowstorms rolled in and out. I started avoiding mirrors completely. Even during the day, sometimes, if I caught a glimpse of my reflection in a window, it lagged, like it wasn't keeping up with me. By the 5th night, I'd stopped sleeping. The whispering above the ceiling never stopped. It only changed rhythm. It wasn't random anymore. It sounded like breathing. I tried to laugh it off, like a sane person would. But the more I laughed, the more hollow it felt. Delaney noticed, of course. He always did. "Lack of sleep will eat you alive up here," he said over breakfast, sipping black coffee. "The mountain feeds on the restless ones." I tried to act normal. "Yeah, well, guess I'm just not used to the altitude." He stared at me with this small, pitying smile. "Altitude doesn't make you whisper to yourself." That was the moment I realized he'd been listening. That night, I checked the hallway cameras. Delaney had told me to make sure the east wing was secure. But when I opened the feed, one of the monitors was already playing back a recording. The timestamp said 12:17 a.m. from 2 nights ago. On the screen, I saw myself standing outside my own room door, knocking softly, 3 times. Then, from inside, the door opened, but it wasn't me who answered. It was another version of me. My hair was longer, my face paler. The two of us just stared at each other. Then the screen flickered, glitched, and cut to static. I froze. Checked the timestamp again. That couldn't be possible. I was in bed that night. I didn't open the door. I didn't. When I turned around, Delaney was standing right behind me. "Curiosity kills the mountain," he said softly. "You shouldn't be watching that." I spun toward him. "What the hell does that mean?" He didn't answer, just placed a hand on my shoulder. His grip was colder than snow. "The mountain remembers faces. Don't let it remember yours the wrong way." I didn't sleep at all after that. Every creak, every shift of air felt personal. Like the building was aware of me. I even heard footsteps pacing outside my door again. Then came the knock. 3 slow taps. I stared at the door, paralyzed. The clock read 12:17 a.m. again, the exact same time as the footage. "Who is it?" My voice barely worked. Silence. Then, softly, "Evan." That voice, that tone, it wasn't Delaney. It wasn't any guest. It was me. My name again, but with something off, like it was missing breath, spoken through ice. I grabbed the doorknob before I realized what I was doing. My skin went numb. I pulled back. "This isn't real," I whispered to myself. "I'm dreaming." The voice outside chuckled, a weak, broken version of my own laugh. "Please, it's freezing out here. You have to let me in." I felt tears sting my eyes. The pleading sounded real, human, desperate. "I can't," I said. "You're not me." The knocking turned frantic. Fists pounding the door, wood rattling in its frame. The walls trembled. The lights flickered. Then, just as suddenly, silence. When I finally looked through the peephole, I saw something that still burns behind my eyes. It was me, standing there in the hallway, covered in snow, lips blue, eyes hollow. And the worst part, he looked terrified, like I was the thing on the other side of the door. He mouthed something, but I couldn't hear through the wood. Then he turned and walked down the corridor until the shadows swallowed him whole. I stood there for a long time, hands still gripping the knob. When I finally looked at the note taped to the wall, my rules, there was a 4th one scrawled in new handwriting. 4. Don't lie to yourself. My knees nearly gave out. I tore it down, ripped it apart, but the words were carved beneath the paper too, into the wood itself, like they'd been there long before I arrived. I didn't tell Delaney. I didn't tell anyone. Who would believe me? But I started noticing things I'd missed before. The lodge's photographs changing slightly day by day, faces rearranging. A different person standing in my spot in each picture, but always wearing my uniform. That night, I heard someone whisper behind the mirror again, a faint voice, repeating one sentence. "You opened the door, Evan. You let it in." I tried to tell myself it was just the wind, but I couldn't shake the feeling that maybe, just maybe, I already had opened that door once before. Maybe that's why the mountain remembered me. And maybe the version of me I saw wasn't a ghost at all. Maybe he was the one who followed the rules. You ever realize a place is watching you? Not just haunted or creepy, but aware? Ridgepine wasn't just a building. It was a body. And room 313, that was the heart. After that night, I stopped pretending things were normal. The reflection, the voice, the footage, I couldn't separate what was real anymore. Every hallway looked slightly different each day, as if the walls kept rearranging themselves when I wasn't looking. I'd find doors where there hadn't been any, and windows that showed nothing but black. Delaney started avoiding me. He no longer gave me chores. He just watched, always from a distance. Sometimes I'd catch him muttering to himself, glancing toward the third floor that supposedly didn't exist. I tried to talk to one of the housekeepers about it, a young guy named Ray, but he just stared at me blankly. "There's no room 313 here," he said. There never was. Then he walked away, leaving his mop still dripping water that froze before it hit the floor. That's when I decided I had to see for myself. The storm outside had swallowed the mountain. The sky was a solid, suffocating grey. I waited until midnight when the halls went quiet. The lights dimmed automatically after 12, leaving the corridors bathed in that dim amber glow that made every shadow feel alive. I carried a flashlight, my heart hammering so loud I was sure it'd wake the guests. I climbed the stairs, counting each step, 47 from the second to the fourth floor. But when I reached step 23, I felt the air change. Cold, still, and there it was again. The landing between floors, the one that shouldn't exist. This time, the sealed door wasn't sealed. It was slightly open, just enough for the faintest breath of air to pass through. I should have turned back. I didn't. Inside, it was pitch black. The air smelled like iron and dust. My flashlight flickered to life, revealing a narrow corridor lined with numbered doors. 301, 305, 307, each one more decayed than the last. And at the very end, crooked on its hinges, was a door with peeling brass numbers. 313. I whispered to myself, "This isn't real," but the door whispered back. I swear it did, just a low murmur that came from the wood itself, like it was breathing. I reached for the knob. It was freezing, colder than ice. My reflection shimmered faintly in the metal, and for a moment, it wasn't me looking back. It was the other one, the pale version I'd seen in the hallway. He mouthed something, the same word again and again. "Don't." I turned the knob anyway. The room was empty, or at least it looked that way. Just a single bed, a dresser, and an old tube television sitting on the floor, its screen buzzing faintly with static. The wallpaper peeled like dead skin. Every surface was layered in dust, except one, the mirror hanging across from the bed. It was spotless. I took a step closer, and the static from the TV spiked. My flashlight flickered and died. The only light came from that television glow, painting the room in grey shadows. On the screen, I saw a grainy image, a man giving an orientation speech to new lodge workers. He was smiling, holding a clipboard. It was me. You can't imagine what it's like seeing yourself on an old VHS, saying things you don't remember saying. My voice was steady, confident. "Welcome to Ridgepine Lodge," I said on the screen. "There are a few rules we expect all staff to follow." I repeated Delaney's exact words line for line. The rules about midnight, the mirrors, room 313. Then the tape glitched, the image doubling. Behind me on the screen stood Delaney, younger but still cold-eyed. He whispered something into my ear, and my on-screen self turned and smiled directly at the camera. But the smile wasn't mine. It stretched too wide, too long. The recording crackled, and suddenly the screen displayed static words. "The mountain remembers." I backed away, shaking. My shoulder hit the mirror. The glass rippled like water, and for a second I saw a reflection of the lodge's hallway, but filled with people I didn't recognize, Faces pale, eyes hollow, each of them wearing the same uniform I did. Some looked like me. Some looked like Mara. Then behind me in the reflection, a figure stepped out of the darkness. Delaney. I spun around. The room was empty, except the TV had changed. Now it showed a security feed of me, standing in room 313, watching the screen. A loop, a reflection, a recording of itself. That's when I heard the knocking again, from inside the walls this time. Not 3 taps, hundreds, all at once. The room vibrated, dust raining from the ceiling. I covered my ears, but the sound pushed through, whispering under the noise. You opened the door. You're part of it now. The mirror shimmered violently, showing flashes of my own face repeating over and over, each version of me screaming silently from behind the glass. I don't remember how I got out. The next thing I knew, I was in my room, the towel torn off the mirror, my reflection grinning back at me while I cried on the floor. When I stumbled into the hallway, Delaney was waiting. His expression was calm, almost proud. You've seen it now, he said softly. The truth. Room 313 doesn't keep secrets. It keeps memories. He stepped closer. You were here before, Evan. You gave me the rules. I wanted to deny it, to call him insane. But deep down, I knew he was right. The flash of recognition in his eyes wasn't new. Maybe I'd been here longer than I thought. Maybe I'd never left. He turned to walk away. Get some rest. Tomorrow you'll understand why the mountain keeps you. As he disappeared into the dim hall, I caught my reflection in the window. Only this time, the reflection didn't move with me. It stayed still, watching, and when it finally smiled, I understood. It wasn't trapped behind the glass anymore. I was. If you hear it once, you can ignore it. Twice, you can reason it away. But the third time means it knows where you are. I didn't sleep after what happened in room 313. My hands were shaking too badly, my thoughts spinning like snow in a blizzard. I kept waiting for morning, but the sky outside never changed. It stayed that same grey, unending twilight that blurred night and day into one. At some point, I must have blacked out, because when I opened my eyes, I wasn't in my room anymore. I was in the hallway outside it, barefoot, dressed, standing in front of the mirror I'd torn the towel from. Except there was no mirror now, just an empty frame, nailed into the wall like a window with nothing behind it. I could see straight through to the wood and insulation. That's when I heard it. Knock. It wasn't loud. It was soft, careful, like whoever or whatever was doing it didn't want to wake the others. Knock, knock, knock. I pressed my ear to the wall. The sound was coming from the other side, from inside the wall itself. And this time, between each knock, I heard something else. Breathing. Who's there? I whispered. The breathing stopped. Then, faintly, came my own voice from the other side. Evan, let me out. My stomach turned. It wasn't possible, but the voice, it matched perfectly. The tone, the hesitation. I stepped back, trembling, staring at the wall as if it might move. That's when the knocking started again, faster this time, desperate. Knock, 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 knock. I bolted down the hall, around the corner, my bare feet slapping against the wood. The corridors stretched longer than they should have. Doors repeating themselves in patterns that made no sense. 305, 309, 313, 305 again. The numbers looped. When I finally found the main lobby, it was empty. No guests, no staff. Just the faint hum of the generator outside. Snow had piled against the front doors so thickly that even the exit was just a white wall. I turned toward the front desk and froze. On the counter was a small tape recorder, the kind used for staff logs. It was already playing, though no one was near it. The tape hissed, and then I heard my voice. Night 2. Heard knocking again. Think it's coming from the walls. Delaney says to ignore it. Says that's how it learns you. The sound of my own voice filled the empty lobby, growing more distorted as the tape continued. If it knocks 3 times, don't answer. It's not someone outside. It's something trying to remember you. The tape clicked off. I stumbled backward, my hand brushing against something cold. A clipboard, my name at the top underlined. Beneath it, a list of check-ins, except every line under mine was the same. Evan Marshall arrived, Deke 7, departed. No end date, no others listed, just me. I don't know how long I stood there before I heard footsteps coming down the stairs. Delaney, calm as ever, holding a lantern. You've seen the walls, he said quietly. You shouldn't have listened. What's happening to me? I asked. He tilted his head slightly, studying me like he was watching something hatch. The mountain remembers its guests, the ones who stay too long, who break the rhythm. It keeps. I'm not staying, I said, my voice cracking. I'm leaving tonight. Delaney smiled faintly, but it didn't reach his eyes. You've already left before, Evan. Every season you say the same thing. Every year you come back. He started walking toward the stairs. Cover your mirrors again. The knock means it's looking for you. You can't let it find you twice. Then he vanished up the steps, his light fading with him. For hours, I sat in the dark, trying to convince myself it was all a dream. But then, just as I started to calm down, knock. I froze. Knock. Knock. It was coming from my door this time. My room, 204. I stared at the handle, waiting for it to turn. Then came the third knock. Louder. Knock. 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 Evan, whispered a voice. It's me. Please let me in. It was my voice again. Perfectly mirrored. I stumbled back, shaking my head, whispering, No, no, no. The door handle started to move, twisting just slightly. I could see the shadow under the door, a pair of feet, but the shadow wasn't standing still. It was twitching like static on a broken TV. I grabbed the nearest thing I could find, a chair, and shoved it against the door. Then I ripped the towel from the dresser, covering the mirror again, gasping for air. The knocking stopped. For a long time, there was only silence. Then, softly, a whisper from the other side of the towel. You can't hide from your reflection forever. My flashlight rolled off the table and hit the ground, flashing once before dying. In that brief pulse of light, I saw something move beneath the towel. Just the faintest stretch, like a hand pressing out from the other side of the mirror. I screamed and bolted into the hallway, not caring where I went. The lodge stretched endlessly before me, doors whispering open on their own. Every reflection in every piece of glass showed me, dozens of me, each one mouthing something different. Some begged for help, some smiled. One whispered, You let me out. When I finally reached the lobby again, I found Delaney waiting. Only this time, he wasn't alone. Behind him stood the other staff, the ones who'd stopped talking days ago. Their faces were grey, eyes dull, like reflections without light. Welcome back, Delaney said softly. The mountain's been waiting. He handed me a towel, still damp. You know what to do. I took it. My hands didn't shake this time. Somewhere upstairs, I heard it again. 3 knocks. Soft and patient. Knock, knock, knock. And this time I whispered back, I know. Then I started climbing the stairs toward room 313.